Hi guys, Aaron here with Ghost Raptor Gaming and Guns, and today we have the Ruger Wrangler in 22 long rifle. What is my relationship with Ruger? I don't have a relationship with Ruger. They don't know I exist. They didn't send me this gun. I purchased this gun myself at D&L in Warwick, Rhode Island for $225. This model has the silver Cerakote finish on it. By the way, just in case you're interested in that, it also comes in black, burnt bronze, and a couple others. Now, before I do anything, let's make sure that this gun is clear so I don't pull an Alec Baldwin. Now, if you're new to the channel, I'm going to go through this gun the way I always go through guns, front to back, top to bottom, and talk about the features and caveats of those features of the gun as I go. So first things first, the front sight. The front sight is a blade style of front sight. It is pressed into place and then it is welded or brazed to keep it in position, something that I didn't have with the Heritage Arms Rough Rider, which was just glued in place. Full review on that gun, go ahead and check it out if you want. Now, moving back from there, we have the rear sight. It is a standard U-notch cut into the top strap, which is fairly typical of single action revolvers, and it is actually fairly typical of a lot of other revolvers in general. Smith & Wesson Model 10s, Colts, stuff like that, etc., etc. But it is rather squared off. It's not rounded or anything like that. It is a pretty good rear sight, and I'll try and give you a nice close-up of those sights. Now, they come up quite nice. Equal height is easy to achieve, but what I did note was I think it's just due to the silver Cerakote finish on this gun, there was a lack of contrast, and so sometimes I had to reacquire my sight picture while I was shooting it. Not a big deal. I don't think you'll have that problem if you just get the black model, but it is something to note with this finish. Now, right here, offset on the side of the barrel, you have your ejector rod assembly. It is a metal rod with a metal spring, and it has a plastic, latch here, or I should say, plunger right there, so you can depress it to eject your rounds. Yeah, it's plastic. I didn't have any problems with it. I don't think you will either, so don't worry about it, but it is just something to be noted. It's one of, as far as I can tell, 2 plastic parts besides the grips. That's it. Now, the cylinder. The cylinder is a metal 6-shot affair, and when you open the loading gate, it spins freely. It doesn't click or anything like that. What I did like about it is that it spins in both directions, both clockwise and counterclockwise. So if you're loading or unloading this gun and you miss a chamber, you can easily just go back to it and then eject your round or load your round. So a very nice job. The cylinder is rebated or countersunk, so the rims fit flush on the cylinder, rear cylinder face, so they don't end up getting, you don't get cylinder lock because of that, right? Which is something that I did experience again with the Heritage Arms Rough Rider. I have a full review on that. Again, go check it out. Loading gate on this guy is metal, and it is fairly stiff, but it's also quite good. It's a little stiff to open, and it snaps shut forcefully and very positively, right? Those two things work together quite nicely, but due to the size of the cylinder and the size of the chamber, as well as the size of the loading gate, really the size of the gun entirely, just being a 22, it can be a little difficult to get your fingers in there to load those 22 long rifle rounds in there, right? And I did note that one of the chambers on my particular model is quite tight, so I really had to cram that round in there. But that being said, you obviously can load and unload the gun somewhat easily, and it works just fine. You can fan it. The hammer is, I believe it's cast marked, cast part. Oh, one more thing. When you close your loading gate, you need to make sure that you index your cylinder manually to the next chamber, because if you don't, sometimes when you go to cock the hammer, it'll lock up, and then you'll have to drop your hammer and again index it to the next chamber. That's just something that I noticed with my particular model. You might not have this problem, but again, something of note. Now, the hammer, as I said, is a cast part. I believe there are some casting marks on it, and it is quite good. Particularly the checkering on the top of the hammer is quite good. As you can see here, it's deep and very much abrasive, so very much tactile. You get a really good grip on that. And then while I'm here, you can also see this has a transfer bar safety. I'll give a quick breakdown of that. If you're not familiar with the transfer bar safety system, basically the transfer bar is what actually interacts with the hammer in the firing pin. When you pull the trigger, the transfer bar will rise up and it will be right behind your firing pin, and your hammer will drop. Your hammer will contact the transfer bar, push it forward, and that will interact with the firing pin, causing the round to go off, right? If for whatever reason the hammer drops without you pulling the trigger, what will happen is the transfer bar will drop out of the way, the top of the hammer will contact the top strap, but it will not contact the firing pin, so the gun won't go off. So it is a pretty good design, and Ruger really likes to use this on a lot of their firearms, particularly their revolvers, and it's a very trusted and proven system. So this is a pretty safe gun. As long as you follow proper safety protocols, you should never have a problem with this gun at all. Now, the frame and the grip module is aluminum. It's quite light, and it is quite good. It feels very good in the hand, especially with these plastic grips. These plastic grips are checkered, and they do have the Ruger logo printed into them, and they're quite tactile. You get a nice good grip on these guys. You don't got to worry about traction or anything like that. So really good. The trigger guard. The trigger guard is small, and it is rounded in nature. Being small, if you have big hands, again, you're gonna have kind of a hard time getting your finger in there, especially if you're wearing gloves. My buddy Jordan, my buddy Jordan shot this gun, and he was wearing gloves as it was quite cold out. It was like 25 degrees. And he was shooting this gun out at his range that he belongs to, and he noted it was hard to get his fingers in there, and his hands are only a little bit bigger than mine. And just as a way of comparison, my hands are right on the borderline between small and medium. It's medium, if you will. Which means that when I put on a lot of small gloves, they're too small, and if I put on a lot of medium gloves, they're just a little bit too big for me. So my hands are a little smaller than his. But again, that being said, with gloved hands especially, he had a hard time getting his trigger finger onto the trigger. And before we talk about the trigger, let's talk about the channel. So right now, the biggest way to support the channel is via Patreon. $1 a month goes a long way for all the little expenses that keep the channel running. I'll put a link in the description. It is a subscription service. So if you want to donate, again, that $1 a month. If you're not comfortable with the subscription service, but you want to support the channel at least once, I do have a GoFundMe set up. The goal is $500. Link in the description. Go ahead and make a one-time donation. I really appreciate the support. If you can't support the channel monetarily, but you do want to support the channel somehow, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff that helps me with YouTube's algorithms for getting the channel out there, okay? Thank you for your support. Now, the trigger. So this is a single action gun only, which means that you need to cock the hammer every time if you want to fire this gun. And what that will do is it will bring the trigger rearward and index your cylinder to the next chamber. The trigger is a smooth face affair. There is zero take up on this guy. And it's about a 5-pound trigger. No reset on this because it is single action only, but here you go. Yeah, it's about 5 pounds. So it's not the best single action trigger I've ever felt in my life, but it is not the worst either. Now, we've talked about all the features of the gun. Let's talk about accuracy. So I'm going to grab some targets. We'll head over to the tabletop and we'll talk about it. Alright, so how accurate is the Ruger Wrangler? Well, first and foremost, we'll take a look at these. This was arm score 38 grain, high velocity hollow point. And I noted with these rounds immediately that they were keyholing and going all over the place. So this whole sheet, this whole target is not representative of what the Ruger Wrangler is capable of. This just serves as a PSA not to use arm score 22 caliber ammunition because apparently it sucks. Now, moving on from there, this is something that I think is a little more representative of the Ruger Wrangler's accuracy. This is a Gila 40 grain target competition lead round nose. So 2-inch group here, just over 2-inch group here, just over 2 inches here. That's really good. That's about a 1-inch group right here. I got a hole here, and a hole here. In case you can't make it out on camera. And then again, this is about a 2-inch group. Now, I did note that the gun shoots a little low for me. And we'll talk about how to fix that in just a second. But here's really what I think the gun is capable of. So here we have very easily a 2-inch group. We have a 1-inch group here. We have just over, well, that's probably about a 1-inch group right there, maybe just over This one definitely had a fly here. That's 2, and then that's one. That was a flyer. And then look at this guy here, half-inch group. This is what I think the Ruger Wrangler is really capable of, but for me, it shot pretty low consistently, as you can see, a couple inches low. And I think that'll be easily solved, as a lot of the single-action guns, you have to do the same thing. What you'll do is you'll simply take a file to the front sight blade and file it down if you're shooting low until your point of aim is your point of impact, and I think you'd be okay. So overall, pretty good accuracy from the Ruger Wrangler. Alright, so as you can see, it shoots a little low, and you tend to shoot about 2-inch groups. I do think you could do better with some really good loads, but I think about 2 inches is what you can expect from this guy. Now, how about disassembly and reassembly? Well, let's hop back over to the tabletop and we'll go over that, but it's a pretty simple process, and I don't think you'll have any problems with it.
So, disassembly of the Ruger Wrangler is a pretty simple affair. Ensure that the gun is unloaded. Then from there, you'll push this plunger in front of the cylinder forward and remove the cylinder pin. Slides out pretty easily. And then you can simply rock the cylinder out. You can inspect it, you can clean it, make sure you have the right orientation, and then reinsert it the way you removed it. And then insert your cylinder pin in the opposite way, depressing that plunger, sliding the pin to the rear, and it will lock in place. Close your loading gate, do your function check, and you should be good to go.
Okay, so as you can see, it is a very simple gun to disassemble and reassemble, clean, maintain, all that good stuff. How about reliability? Well, I put 500 rounds through this gun, and I had no failures of any kind, which is actually kind of surprising because 22 long rifle is a rimfire round, not a centerfire round, and centerfire rounds are much more reliable than rimfire rounds. I don't know if it's just because I was using new ammo or what the deal was, but I didn't even experience a dud round. So 100% reliability out of the Ruger Wrangler in the initial 500 rounds test. So I'm pretty impressed with this gun, and I'll leave you with Jordan and his thoughts on this firearm, but suffice it to say, we both like it.
Yeah, there. Good. Neat.
That's it? That's your overall thoughts on it? It's neat.
It's pretty neat. Would you just look at it? Yeah, I love the finish of this thing. I haven't shot a 22 pistol in a while, so
Yeah, I know.
You kind of brace for the snappiness of what I'm used to, like a 40 cal. But no, this is a great gun to teach someone how to shooting. It seems like it's very simple to operate, single action. Got to cock the hammer back every time. Sights are nice. It's very easy to line up that sight. There's a nice groove for the rear sight, so that makes it really easy to acquire the target. Once I figured out where I'm shooting, it's very easy to adjust. Very cool. I didn't even know Ruger made stuff like this. So
Yeah.
I like Ruger as a company in general, but it's pretty neat.